Okay, now we are recording and we are live. And for episode 6, this evening I am joined by Wendy Landry Braun.
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so we will be discussing her business. This young lady here, she has a business, and her business is called Bebia Cho Foods. So, first question is, who is the founder and owner, Wendy? And can you explain in your own words who Wendy is?
Yeah, so my name is Wendy Landry. I'm Dega Goti Dene from Port Providence, Northwest Territories, a small community, about 600 people. It's covered in snow 9 months out of the year, and not much people have seen a fruit tree. The fruit line, like the tree line, ends basically where I'm from. And so I grew up in the Okanagan Silks Territory, where I'm so grateful to live. And this is kind of like where the Okanagan is the heart of BC, and we have all the apples here that we're world renowned for our apples here. And so growing up, like my family, like we never came from much. We always accessed the food bank, and year round, I always seen apples in the food bank, in the hampers, and even as I got older, like as currently on maternity leave as an Indigenous student advocate. In a middle school in the same neighborhood, in a school that I also went to when I was a kid back in the day. So I kind of just started I launched my company. I got out of the hospital. So I had my baby in December, and I was on a weight loss journey, and then I had a freak accident, and I ended up having to get my gallbladder removed. And so I was in the hospital for almost 2 weeks waiting for my surgery and stuff like that on a strict diet. And I was so sick of not being able to eat anything. And so when I got out, like I grew up always dehydrating stuff and canning. And I don't really like canning so much because it's such a long process. But I started this company. Actually, like my old work at the Métis Society of BC, they had a Métis rendezvous and they had market tables. And I was like, you know what? I should just like do my apple chips. I haven't done them for so long. And I'm like, I just got out of the hospital. I'm miserable right now. And I've just been like, I did a whole business plan while I was in the hospital just to keep me from going crazy. Like I'm also breastfeeding. I have a young baby at the time. At that time, my baby was about 5 months. And so this was May 23rd. I got out of the hospital and I literally launched the company that day on the social media. And then I did my first market on the Métis Rendezvous on Aboriginal Day, so June 21st. And there I ran into a lovely lady named Joy, who was the executive director of the Lake Country Food Bank, which is amazing because she really believes in my vision because I'm doing twisted chips, trying to bring a new twist to a classic, I like to say, because I'm a big foodie and my kids are picky eaters. So I'm trying to get them to eat healthy, like it's so hard. And plus I work in the middle school and what kids are the biggest critics, they're kind of mean, but at least I know which flavors are good. And so, yeah, that I met Joy there and she let me use her commercial kitchen. So I really got to launch my business from working just a home hobby idea, mom doing this at home in the kitchen with my kiddos. And then I started working in a commercial kitchen. And so like, I was like, you know what? Now I'm working in a commercial kitchen. This was a week before Kamloops Powwow Pitch. I'm not too sure if you know about Powwow Pitch, but this was the 10th year that it's going on. And they go in location. They have in location person powwow pitch. And so I was like, you know what the heck? I'm just going to apply. I'm going to go try it. What's the worst that can happen? I'll stutter. I'll get embarrassed, whatever. It'll be a good experience for my kids to come up there, come see it. Plus, I'm going to a powwow anyways. It's good vibes. I want to go check it out. What do I got to lose? And so we ended up going there. Brought the whole family. So I've got 2 daughters, one that's 10 and one that's 5. And my little baby was 5 months old at that time. And we went there, pitched, made it to the second round. And I was like, oh my God. And then we did the second pitch. And when they said that we won, I was like completely shocked. And so with that $5,000, I used it to launch my company. And so my business is all now running and registered. And then I didn't even realize I was nominated. I've been doing so I started my company at the end of apple season. So all my costs for my apples are relatively high right now, but the Lake Country Food Bank donates apples to support my healthy snack program. So I do a healthy snack program. Since I'm being from the north, I usually send stuff home to my family. And I was like, you know what, look, we gotta I'm also an Indigenous student advocate. And so I always wonder about those kids up there, that we often forget about. And me being from the Northwest Territories, my Uncle Arvin's married to my auntie, and she's Inuvialuit from Joe Haven and way up north. And I'm like, they've never even get apples up there. And so I was like, it kind of started as a social experiment. I was like, you know what, I contacted. So I started my healthy snack program, sending dried apple chips to Igluk, Nunavut. There's a school there with 365 people. And I started doing that within a week after working in the commercial food bank kitchen. And since then, I just found out that we won 6 awards. So I got 4 gold awards in Kelowna here. So we got voted and won gold for dessert, for candy, and for vegetarian dish, and specialty foods. And bulk foods. And then we got a platinum in catering, and we got a platinum in specialty foods. And so for me, I'm all about community. Let's go out, let's go do stuff, because most of the time, I'm a low income. Right now, we live in low income housing. And that's another big push for me to get this going, is because I grew up in the same neighborhood. I live in Rutland in Kelowna, BC, and I grew up in the Native complex across the street where I live now with my children. And so all my students that I work with, I keep it real. They know where I live. They know I have kids. They know my struggles too, because I try to be realistic. And, and this whole, if my students were knowing that I started this whole business before I went back to work, they would probably never even imagine that, because at this time last year, when I was pregnant, before going on maternity leave, I had no idea I was going to do this. So it's just, everything's been evolving. And so for me, I also struggled with my sobriety. I used to live on downtown East Side. I lived in Hastings for about 3 years in a 1-bedroom, single unit rental with no windows. So, I really battled my demons, and I lived in that fast lane for a long time. And a couple of years ago, my best friend passed away, and he overdosed before he got to meet my son. And that's who I named my baby after. And so, and after losing my grandpa, this company, it's really spiritual for me, because it's a way to honor my grandpa, and he's a residential school survivor, which kind of evolved to everything else. But yeah, Kamloops Powwow Pitch is really what helped me get started and launched. And right now, it's just I just wanted to do my little healthy snack program on the side. And since winning 6 awards, we've had over 500,000 visitors on our Facebook pages. I'm getting calls all over Canada, and I'm excited. And I've actually designed swag for my family, not to to go and sell. And we're going to be going to the International Fashion Show in Regina in October. So we got a lot going on.
It sounds like it's a journey filled with excitement, of laughter, and of course it ties into
overwhelming as well. So
yes.
Another thing is that I just recently started my TikTok. Bebia Cho is Dene Zati from where I'm from, and it translates to big baby. My grandpa used to always call me Big Baby, so naturally to honor where I'm from, and I always call my daughter Baby Cho. It's pronounced Bebia, but it's in English it's baby, so I just say the English way because it's more catchier. But it's also reconciliation just in the name itself, because people always ask, oh, what does it mean? And I'm like, oh, well, I'll tell you. and it's so funny, because as soon as they find out it's big baby, they're like, oh, that's so neat. So it sticks. I like it. And especially my kids, it's something I call them. And I'm hopefully now I can expand my apple chips here. I've actually said I've got to send you some so you can try some out. but we've gone all over Canada so far, and I'm already in 2 stores right now. So we got a lot going on, and I launched officially May 23rd. And this is all something that was a hobby. And then I just kind of went full into it because I was going through those baby blues, and things just kept going, like I just kept on following those good vibes. And right now things are just evolving and blowing up. We're still in the pre-revenue stage, so we're just we're so new. We're still figuring out our ways. We're making those connections. Like, that was another reason I reached out to you, because you're also a youth that's aspiring, that's also a new business owner, and I'm like, I gotta get a hold of her, and maybe in a year from now, who knows, we'll have another interview.
Yes. So I haven't made the posters yet, but now that you've mentioned it about getting a hold of me and talking about maybe in a year or so, I'd invite you back because, like I said, I have not created the posters. I have not created the announcements to be put out on the podcast social medias, but I wanted our viewers and our listeners to know that season 1, there will be 20 episodes in total for season 1. And season 2, season 3, season 4, however many seasons, however long this podcast carries on, each season will be 20 episodes. And so for the first episode, it will be primarily interviewing Indigenous professionals, which was the whole reason I created the Indigenous Central podcast, is so that there was a platform that they could be welcomed and they could join and they could engage in a conversation and they could be comfortable, and it could be from the comfort of their own home, and we could get them to mainstream media. Because let me tell you something, or let me ask you a rhetorical question. How many Indigenous surgeons or Indigenous lawyers or Indigenous judges do you know of, whether it's locally to your place of residency or your province or in the entire country, right? There's not that many people. You don't hear much of, oh, I surpassed the bar exam. I'm an Indigenous lawyer. Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I practice here, and I reside in this city. It's very much isolated to this city that they live, that they work in, and that they go to school in. And so that was the idea for me when I came up with the idea, and I presented the idea at earlier this spring, this April, there was a round dance held here in my local city. And there was this beautiful colored woman of, I'm not sure what the correct way of saying it, but she was a Black woman. And I can't say African American because I wouldn't know for sure if she's from Africa or of that lineage. But there was a very beautiful Black woman there. And I loved her outfit. I loved the way her dress, her presence, and her aura. It just inspired me, and it just drew me to her. And I felt comfortable just starting up a conversation with her and just being in chitter chat and telling her what my dreams and my plans are and introducing myself, saying, hi, I'm a student with the college, yada, yada, yada. And she was the first person that said to me, go for it.
Yeah.
Take that idea and make it a reality. Move forward with your dream, with your goal, with your idea, and create the podcast. There's, in her words, and I'm probably butchering it because I can't remember the entire quotation, but she said along the lines of, there's only so many tomorrows that we have, and it's better to start now than to regret it.
Yeah.
And that resonated with me. And so ever since April, where it was an idea, and now in the month of September, we have the 6th episode, and you're the 5th guest on this episode, which is a good thing for the podcast. And this is our 4th episode that we are doing this via virtual meeting. Awesome. And also people can see, this is the fourth episode where we're actually showing our faces on camera. And yeah, so that was the exciting part of it, and that was what drove me to creating a business. I knew I wanted to be a businesswoman for as long as I can remember, probably around the COVID era, when COVID first started and we were just at home and we were just bored out of our minds and
Yeah.
not knowing what to do, not knowing what projects we wanted to start. What is our plan A, what is our plan B, what is our plan C? And so that's, in my mind, that's where I'm thinking it first started for me to be a businesswoman. And I thought of a million businesses. I thought of an Indigenous podcast, not car wash, or a laundromat, or owning a food chain, or being a wholesaler. But until this April, until this early spring, it wasn't that aha moment. It wasn't that light switch. This was starting this podcast. That was my light switch. And that is what got me going and got me plowing and got me putting in an effort, because I have a pretty bad habit, or a poor habit, of procrastinating. But ever since launching this podcast, I've become a bit more productive. I'm starting to see changes in my productivity, in my time management, in my communications, especially my communications. And this is verbal and public speaking, because, I'm showing my face to a public and I'm speaking to a guest on a virtual meeting, but this gets posted on a public platform, YouTube. So that was where the inspiration and the idea came from for me to go, that's what I need to do. That's the Indigenous business I was looking for. As a podcast is for individuals who are career professionals to come on a platform, to be interviewed, to be in a safe space, in a culturally accepting and awareness driven space, and share their stories, share their experiences, share their knowledge, and just be themselves, be the beautiful Indigenous people who we are, and to display that comfortably and without having so many barriers and hurdles. I mean, technology ends up giving us a rotten day or two, but that was why I chose virtual meetings, and why I chose,
Inspiring too, like you're so young and you're just doing it. And when I was young, I went to film school in Vancouver and I never really did anything with it. And I totally regret it. So it's like, it's so awesome seeing young people that are following it, just doing it. And you're doing it, you're showing people the real raw people, like, like you're talking to people where they're at, where they're comfortable, and it's more realistic. You go online, yeah, you can see all these people online that are doing great, but like now that I'm starting to learn, like you can see online, I've got a pretty good eye for detail, and my stuff's sparkly, my stuff's cool on Facebook, but you don't see the stress behind that camera. Like I'm wearing makeup now, but you didn't see me earlier. I was looking like a crazy person. And like you don't see the dedication behind the stuff. And like right now, like I'm a business owner. I've had over 500,000 people on my Facebook pages, but does that reflect my sales? No. And so, you have people reaching out all the time, and it's like, yeah, you see people see you rising, doing well in community, but they don't see the struggles. And so like right now, what I'm starting to see is like, I go, as soon as I won a powwow pitch, people are just like, oh, or her apple chips, like, because I grew up in the Okanagan, and there's everybody in the Okanagans grew up eating apples year round, even in the winter. And so I thought I would have a lot of criticism. I can't even say skepticism. Criticism. I'll go with that instead, because it's people that grew up owning orchards. And then I'm like, well, I've got dark chocolate and sea salt and toffee. I've got peanut butter dreams. I've got a sweet raspberry dreams, I call it. And I made an Every Child Matters flavor when I went to Kamloops to honor residential school survivors. And Yeah, so it's like once people were like, "Oh, she actually won," and then they did a feature in the local newspaper here, Castanet. I had a lot of like people are just like, "Oh," like then people were kind of mean to me. They're just like, "Oh, she's actually serious." Like, and I've had a couple of people doubt me, and I'm just like, "Whatever, I'm just doing me," I've like I won 6 awards, but I kind of like they gave us a paper award. And I'm a small business owner. I couldn't even afford to buy my trophies yet. So that's
Oh,
another, so it's like I did my second market. This is keeping it like, yeah, you see all the good success, but you don't see that hard work behind it. And the
mhm.
burnout is real. And especially like me and you kind of started around the same time. And I like it's the having this network, especially knowing that you just started, like that's so awesome because of course I'm going to see how you grow. And maybe now I know some people in the West Coast, like I've never been past Calgary, so that's why it was another reason why I wanted to reach out to you. I'm a part of Indigitech, and it's a 12-week free course. You learn how to do web dev and doing web dev, UX design. It's free. They give you a free laptop. This is what I'm on right now. It really helps with barriers, and it
Mhm.
aligns perfectly with they're helping me do a business plan, my cash flow. They also help you do a business plan with Canadian Council of Aboriginal Business. And so and it's all free. And so I'm utilizing it as much as I can, trying to be successful because I've already made some purchases I probably shouldn't have. Um, and like like so my baby Cho bear, the shirt that I'm wearing here, it evolved as swag. And then, and I really liked it. It was honored to my grandpa and I was really missing him. And then I printed them on shirts for my family, and now people are asking me to buy them. And so I've actually sold only 6. I bought 50. See, this is like an impulse kind of thing. I bought
Yeah.
50, sold 6. I gave away 44. Because I'm calling it my baby Cho awareness bear. It's that icebreaker to start a conversation. You can keep it light. It's to bring light to like the social injustices Indigenous people have to face. But it's also like allyship. You see the bear, and it's like, oh, it's somebody that either tried baby Cho chips, or or they're part of the healthy snack program, or it's a conversation starter. You see somebody wearing it, it's like, oh, so you know about that? Like, hey, how's it going? Like, working with kids and with all this government, every election, all you hear is Indigenous get free this and that. And I would hear that with my students, and they don't like a lot of them didn't even like, I'm like, do you even know what you're talking about? And they're just like, well, my dad said, and it's like, well, come on here, kiddo. Let me talk to you a little bit. As an
Mhm.
Indigenous woman that doesn't get free school, it doesn't work like that. And a lot of them, it's so they want to learn. A lot of kids want to learn about the Indigenous culture, ways that we live, or just the way of life of how through Indigenous lens. And a lot of people with the division with the government, every new election, they just don't want to go near that subject. They're just like, oh no, like that's and now it's almost, especially here on the West Coast, it's almost become racist to highlight Indigenous, like
Mhm.
I reached out to a couple of newspapers around here and told them I want Kamloopa, and a couple of them told me, well, we don't want to, like racism, like the last time we highlighted some Indigenous issues. I'm like, Indigenous empowerment, you mean? Like, this is a good heart story. But
Mhm.
so I sent out most of my shirts. I connected with Samuel Bird's mom, Alana, and I sent her some shirts so that when they're on the river searching for them, these are bright and reflective. And I've sent some to my home community, Fort Providence, Northwest Territories. They've all been evacuated all suddenly last week. And so we don't need to be worried about other people on the land trying to help with fires, trying to do security. So I sent these bad boys up there, and hopefully people will be rocking them. And, like, not everybody wants to wear an orange shirt every day, but these could be good for when you're hunting and on the land. And yeah, so that was like an impulse shop, but it's also getting the awareness out. And that's what I want to do. Put some good vibes out there, try to plant that seed of understanding with our younger generations, because these older people are a little set in their ways. So like I just want to make it a little bit more of an understanding world for my kiddos, because I see all this racism and hate. And I just read they sent a letter out here in the Okanagan, or sorry, not in the Okanagan, but in BC, because we won Aboriginal title rights over Superside rights after that. So people that are private landowners that were on Aboriginal title land, it's now being, there's property that they're fighting over, and they're saying that they shouldn't have to give back the land back to the Aboriginal groups there. So there's a lot of racism here right now, especially in BC, and especially where I am. But all the people I thought would be most critics are the most supportive. And a lot of people like that are buying my shirts are not Native, which is awesome, and they want to support it. And and I think I told not one person I went to this market this past weekend had heard about Samuel Bird, the 14-year-old boy missing in Edmonton. Not one person, not one. And every single person. Either. No. Oh my goodness. See, he's a 14-year-old boy that's been missing since June 14th. And the RCMP haven't even activated the search and rescue team for him. So I donated all my Every Child Matters flavors, all the proceeds I sent to his mom for the search. So we're trying to use the power of social media to do what we can, where we're at, how we can, or to do what we can from where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, I also encouraged other local business owners to step up and do the same, and a couple of them are doing here. Some have donated earrings that they're selling it and sending the money to the mom for the search and for food and stuff, because now they're keeping the fire going, and they're going to be having a rally on September 6th. So I really hope the RCMP take this serious and finally activate that search and rescue team and search the river.
Yes. Your second portion of your story, we haven't even gotten to question 2, and that's completely fine. But I'm just hearing a lot of goodness and a lot of self-improvement for you as a person and for you as a business owner and for your business. And then we get to the part of racism, and then I'm trying to think, how do I relate to this young woman that's in front of me? I've never experienced racism to the point where you're describing it.
Yeah.
I dealt with teasing and I dealt with bullying, but I never really put a label on it as far as discrimination or prejudice or racism, because to me, I didn't feel that it was a strong blow to my character or to me as a person or to me as an Indigenous individual to where I would label it as such. But it was bullying through middle school, because I have fair skin. Not sure if many people can tell, but I have quite fair skin. And in middle school, I remember it was the comprehensive high school in a previous city that me and my mom lived in before the city we live in now. And I remember it was Indigenous high school students who were saying this. That
there's a lot of reverse racism too, especially for me. I face that because I'm Dene and I live in a community that's not Dene. And so that's another reason I've always felt really disconnected, like imposter syndrome. And because I'm an urban Indian, I like to call myself. I'm an urban half-breed Indian. So my mom's Dene and Métis, and my dad is Russian and English. And so when I go home to the Northwest Territories, like when I went to school there in Yellowknife, I used to get called a white girl by the Native people there. That like, yes. And I was like, I would get called a white girl, and I'd be like, what the heck? Like, I'm Native, I'm Dene, like, I'm gonna stab it hard. Like, But when I come back to Kelowna, I was the token Native girl. Everybody knew me as the Native girl. Oh, go get her to do the land acknowledgement. Go get her to do a powwow dance. And it's like, that's not my culture. I don't do that. Like, I'll come to the powwow. Of course, I could come drum, but I'm not going to be your token, like, mascot. And that's how I always kind of felt. And so I'm doing these orange t-shirts, and there's no words on the shirts. And so I have other styles that have my teddy bear, but it's just tiny, and like it's just on the side. And so you can show your support, and you don't have to be loud about it. You can just do it, because you know how alone it is to feel, especially in the city. And there's so many people there, and you look around, you just feel lonely. But you know, some little connection like that. It's like, oh, hey, you know about that brand, eh? Like, I would like people to talk about others, you know, to feel like if somebody's wearing that, then maybe they're a safe person to talk to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, honestly, I completely lost track on what I was saying. But I think I was talking about my bullying experience in middle high school. And, you know, fair enough, I had fair skin. And I was about the age of 13 years old when this took place. I want to say I was 13 years old. I could have been younger, but I'm going to hit the nail on the head and say I was 13 years old when I first discovered social media.
Yeah.
And I remember I was on one of those school laptops. You know, they give you school laptops that are property of the school, and they're usually those small, funky looking Chromebooks. And I was discovering, what is Facebook? Because I hear a lot of my classmates describing what Facebook is, and they're talking about their likes and they're talking about their posts. And so I was interested. So I went to facebook.com and I created an account, and I went snooping around, you know, finding out, what is this feature? What is this feature? What is this layout? What is that? What is this? How to create a post? What is a post? And so, along with doing my little research, and the classroom that I was in while this was taking place, that's when I had my first interaction of someone who actually noticed my skin and made a commentary about it. That was my first-hand experience and first-person experience of discovering what bullying is within racial prejudice, racial discrimination. And I looked at my skin and I didn't say anything. I just looked down at my skin and I was silent. Didn't say anything, didn't, you know, argue against it, didn't argue back, didn't fight back. Just simply sat there looking at my skin and continued doing what I was doing. And I will say this about how my mind works, because there are certain memories that I remember vaguely. There are some specific memories that I remember to every detail, but that memory I only remember vaguely. And in that city where I went to that high school, I also took therapy sessions, or a form of counseling with not a psychiatrist, but with a therapist or a counselor. Not entirely sure. Her name was Pam. And I explained to her how there are certain moments in my childhood, in my younger years, to where it's completely black, like it's all black, where I don't remember the day, I don't remember the time, I don't remember the details, I don't know where I was, where I was going, nothing. And then she referred me, and she strongly suggested that this could be a cognitive disability or condition. So then she recommended that me and my mom have a one session with a psychiatrist. And so I did, or a psychologist, I can't remember between those two, but a higher graduated therapist. And he diagnosed me with something along the lines of post-traumatic blackout disorder, meaning because of post-traumatic stress or post-trauma of my childhood, such as growing up with an alcoholic mother and growing up seeing her violent temper when she was drunk or when she was a dry drunk. Dry drunk referring to when alcoholic goes many days of being sober in their sobriety for that short period of time. And he explained further that because that was the environment and that was the atmosphere and that was the elements that I grew up and that I was exposed to, my mind, in an effort to protect me, it would block out certain moments, certain events in my childhood. Therefore, I have post-traumatic blackout disorder, meaning that there are gaps. There could be large gaps, there could be small gaps, there could be longer periods of gaps to where it could last an entire year that I know nothing about. And that's due to what I saw, to what I witnessed, and what I heard growing up. And so I vaguely remember when I was 13 years old, my first interaction. And maybe I did have other previous, reactions or responses or other events that took place before I was 13 years old. But to me, in my mind, that was my first encounter with bullying along the lines of racial prejudice.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. And my dad still struggles with drugs. All my life, my dad did drugs, and I thought if my dad seen me do drugs, he would stop doing drugs. He just handed me over the pipe, and then we did drugs together. And so for years, so I've been doing drugs since I was like 15 till I was about 30 years old, hard, like every day. Besides for when I was pregnant with my daughter, for maybe about 2 years when my daughter was like born and pregnancy and all that. And so I've always used that to cope. And now it's like, for me, I'm starting to get all those memories from all those times that I suppressed it too, from all the drugs. But that's another thing you're going to find when you're doing this. I find this job, like, it's entrepreneur work. You're showing up for yourself, like you said, your communication, your stuff's all improving because it's for you. You're not working for someone else. You're doing it for you. And so for me, talking about my baby Cho Bear, some days are heavy for me because I remember my grandpa, he never said, I love you. He would just, and I would always call him back because he went to residential school. And all my life, and then before my grandpa passed away, I'd always call him back. I'd be like, I love you, grandpa. And then so he'd always say, I love you. And then he'd hang up. And not until the other day, I told my mom, like, grandpa, I was the only one grandpa said I loved you too. And she's like, and I told him that. I'm like, how come you don't say I love you? And he's like, that's English. That's not Denny. He's like, I love you. But, for me, I grew up like the white way, I guess you would say, is that I'm used to hearing that. I need to hear that. And so, and growing up, like, I didn't really realize why he was so cold. He was really like, my grandpa was very loving to me, but I could see that, and I didn't realize how much it affected me, little things like that. Now it's coming back. And for you might start getting that too. And it's all, you got to try and stay balanced. And like, this is empowering work, what you're doing, but you're also opening up yourself and you're being raw and authentic. And sometimes it does trigger a lot. And I find myself crying all the time. Oh my God. Like, I get so emotional sometimes, and sometimes you just got to let it go. But you just got to feel what you feel. And, those memories, those times, some, they'll come back, and like, one thing that's for me is that my dreams, I'm getting wicked dreams now. Like, I've been sober for about 3 years now off all the hard drugs. So I'm getting wicked dreams, and I'm getting memories that I had a memory of like a sexual assault that happened to me when I was younger. And I couldn't even like I like it just popped into my mind the other day, and I couldn't. And I was like, how the hell did I not remember that? And so,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that are triggering too. So, but
Mhm.
resiliency.
Yes. And from what I understood of my diagnosis is that when that happens, it's your brain's way of shutting down in a
Yeah,
way of how you hear the term or the phrase organ shutting down, your brain shutting down. It's functioning, it's alive, it's still getting oxygen and blood, but it's shutting down the memory center, or rather, it's shutting down cognitively so that you're not remembering. And so therefore there are gaps in your memory. There's blackout of events, dates, and times, and of the people. And sometimes you don't even recognize the people. And so it can affect short-term and long-term memory depending on how
yeah,
impactful and how negative and how forceful those moments throughout your childhood were. And also i I self-diagnosed myself, so I have been informally diagnosed myself with uh PTC um PTSD, the post-traumatic childhood
yeah,
disorder, is because that's from childhood, and
yeah.
it goes hand in hand, and it lines up with the post-traumatic blackout memory.
And that
Is
must also be frustrating too, because those are your
Mhm.
core memories that you can't remember. And,
Yeah,
that must suck too, but there's also a reason why your mind protected you from that too. But,
yeah,
the mind works in such mysterious ways. And,
yes.
yeah, like, especially now, like, I'm having so much stuff, like, I'm feeling everything, and it's like, it gets overwhelming, and,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, but yeah, it's just about you got to take care of yourself. And it, like, I've got to, like, growing up, counseling was always just like, especially in Kelowna, this is very rich kind of town, very white, profound kind of business retirement town. So if you're a native, you're darker skinned, you're targeted for social services to ministry. So
Oh.
I grew up with the mentality is that you don't talk to counselors, or they're
Mm.
going to come take you. So it's like, and so back when we were growing up, that was our generation. Maybe your mom's generation too, is that you just don't talk about it, and and they drank about it. And that's what I was doing. And that's why I'm so glad to have had my son, is because I feel like I got that second chance to, like, find myself again. Because I wasted, like, when I was your age, that's when I got heavy, and I was on East Hastings and living in a 1-bedroom unit. And it's so nice to see you thriving. And I'm going to keep watching you, because that's what I wish I would have done at your age. And see what, like, imagine what you're going to accomplish when you're my age.
Well,
So,
thank you. I'm thrilled and I'm honored by that. I'm flattered that this is impactful. Of course, when I first started it, I had doubts, and every human being, they have doubts. It's inevitable. It's unavoidable. We get doubts. There's flaws within the human system, within human nature, and so I did have doubts at the beginning of starting this podcast, wondering, is this really gonna touch home? Is this going to be too insensitive? Am I going to be too much of, too pushy, or am I going to be too raw, too open, too honest? Am I going to be too forward, too direct? But I am finding my comfortable level, my comfort zone, but also to be able to feel comfortable in my skin, that I can branch outside of the comfort zone and not just stay solely within that comfort zone. Because, as I've said in previous episodes, and I will continuously say it in every episode, every chance that I get, if not every episode, then every chance I get, in order for us to build the bridge towards reconciliation between non-Indigenous and Indigenous, there has to be the discussions and there has to be the conversations of the hard to talk about, difficult, painstaking topics such as residential school and being the children of residential school survivors, talking about the history, bringing awareness to what happened, not to blame.
It
We're
needs
not
to be
our
honored,
culture.
Yeah, I love that, and there's so many young kids that don't know what an orange t-shirt's for. They know
Mm-hmm.
about residential school, but they're at like now I'm seeing it's like my grandpa. I see my grandpa went to residential school. My mom went to day school. But my daughter, she only seen my mom and my grandpa as loving, caring, spoiling her. But she never got to see what I seen growing up, with the hard
Yeah.
alcoholism, so it's, and so they don't really see that effects. And so for them, that I feel like that they don't, that more of like, it's so great that they don't feel the effects, that like they're the empowered generation. Like my daughter, I'm so happy that she has no effects from it. But she does, but not like how we did. And so now
Mm-hmm.
it's and it like the last residential school only closed in 1996. But now we have people that are born and they're just like, well, my parents weren't a nun. My parents didn't do that. And I was like, yeah, but your great grandparents did. And that's still part
Yeah.
of our history. And then you have people saying, oh, well, we don't have to talk about that to children. I'm like, so my family's history is too harsh for your little children to hear. This is what that happened to my family when they were children. And
Mm-hmm.
my family's history is too harsh for your little children to hear. I was like, no, no, no. They need to hear it at a young age. And so they understand. Because,
Mm-hmm.
when we have kids that are 9 or 8 and they hear on the government, oh, Indians get free school. Now they think Indians get free school. And now what I'm seeing is a lot of immigrants. Why don't they have any truth and reconciliation training? Every East Indian person I've met, they're so nice, but and somehow
Yeah.
in every conversation, oh, so you guys get free school and land, or do you get free gas? And I'm like, how does that come up? Does the Canadian government just like tell you guys that or something? Like, how do you not,
Mm-hmm.
like, as a newcomer to Canada, why would that be the first thing that you ask me in a conversation? Like, I
Yes.
went to a market on West Bank First Nations land. We were the only First Nations vendors, and we all go get together, and the hostess looks right at me and my daughter, and she's like, everybody come gather for the powwow. And I stopped her right there, and I was like, excuse me? And she's like, oh. I'm like, did you just say powwow? And I'm like, this isn't a powwow. You are on West Bank First Nations land. You're on a reserve. And you just told everybody and looked at me and told us to all come gather for the powwow. So seeing an Indian spark that in your vocabulary, like what would make you? And she said, well, I grew up using that word powwow. And I was like, oh, and let me guess, he also used that phrase up the totem, like on the totem pole too. Like, and she grew up and she's the same age as me, and she was pregnant too. And I'm like, this is about, and I wanted to pack up my stuff and leave. But then I'm like, this is why I'm here, because I don't want to get mad and just like take offense. Like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to
Yeah.
talk to her about being understanding, so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was really ticked off, but
Yeah.
I calmed myself, and then I was like, you know what, I accept your apology, and I am sorry too, because I probably overreacted, and I've got that resting bee face, so I apologize too, and it was good, and she learned her lesson to never use that vocabulary again. But you can't go and just be like, hey, you're racist. You can't call people out like that, because a lot of
Yeah.
times they don't know it. She literally did not know it. She probably grew up with all of her family saying that. And like
Mm-hmm.
the look in her eye when I told her you can't say that is like, she was like, oh, she, like, you could tell she literally was like so sorry. And she just said it, and it flipped on the top of her, like came out of her, rolled off the top, her tongue like that, just so easily. And that's because she said she, like, that's been in her vocabulary all her life, and she lives on a reserve too. So, but it's one of the richest, most economically developed reserves in all of Canada. But still, you should have a little bit more, like you would
Mm-hmm.
think kind of more education about that. But no, you also have to be aware that people in school, when you're back in social work, they don't teach you anything about stuff like that. It's one chapter. And if you miss that one day of class, you don't learn it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much. That's why I'm trying to plant that seed of understanding with our younger generations. Maybe one of these kiddos will get into politics and do some real change making.
Yeah. You know, and when I talk about that, I haven't directly dealt with racism, especially when referring back to when I was 13 years old. And yes, to all the viewers and listeners, I am probably repeating myself like a broken record. Please excuse me. But, um, I haven't directly had that confrontation or that experience. And I'm starting to think that could it be the color of my skin, or could it just be some niche perception, not some nuanced perception of they take one look at you and they automatically judge you, and they probably look at me and figure, oh well, we're safe with her, she's clearly white skin, she's clearly a white girl. And is it also the way I carry myself and like the way I speak, and it's my communication, and of course fairly broadened in the way I speak. I play around a bit more and try to piece together my speech and my what I'm saying. But at the same time, that's what makes me feel guilty for being the person who I am, which is I'm mixed race myself as well. I'm half white, half
Never feel
native.
guilty. And you know what? You can go into some places some people can't, and you can go into a space that maybe a First Nations that's really dark can't, because it is a racial place. But you can go into a space
Yeah.
like and share this awareness like you're doing right now and make it a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you got your own, everybody's got their own little special powers, and you're figuring it out. You're on a great path. You just
Mm-hmm.
launched, you're young, you're getting out there, you're talking to me. I'm on the West Coast. And so
Yeah.
like now you're already making an impact, and yeah, you're gonna be thriving. So I'm excited to see where you go. And and like for me, like I felt like a lot of like a lot of reverse racism from a lot of other natives, because I do look white some, and I have blonde hair right now. And so you get that. And then sometimes I feel comfort within the non-native community, because like everybody's just there's good people, good vibes, and you're going to find them when you're doing your good stuff.
Yeah.
So, and you're going to have you'll face racism, but you might not face it like I might, but you're going to face different ways, and you're going to have to find your resilience in all that as well. But you can just think of it, you can go to different spaces, some people can, and make it safe for them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a more unique impact.
Yes. And talking about reverse racism, I and like I said, I cannot recall, or I'm just not with it with my recall memory, or maybe I'm just absurdly naive and I'm, sort of blind. Maybe I did face some sort of racism along the lines of my life. But that being said, is when I see a Native person, I'm especially a younger Native person, the adults and the elders, I'm not afraid to go up to, the older generation's natives. But for some reason, without speaking or without saying hello to many of the younger people, like the teenagers and the younger adults of natives, I don't know what it is. I'm just scared out of my mind to approach them. They just seem scary to me.
Well, and it's the bee face, like I don't know what it is, but it's like, and naturally most people, they're shy, but like so like where I'm at, like what the high school I went to, they would be like all the native people, everybody in the high school would assume you guys were all cousins or knew each other. And it's like, and I didn't know any of them. And so like people would just like place you together and be like, oh yeah, they're brown, they must hang out, and it's like we don't know each other at all. So but yeah,
Yes.
And so I've noticed, like, I went to university, all the Native people that were in my class, I'd be like, oh, hey. And then, like, they didn't want anything to do with me because they didn't want us to, like, be the token Indians, because that's how I felt like it was always tokenized. So it's like, and that's how I like the imposter syndrome too. But like right now, like I feel a lot of ups and downs, especially doing an orange t-shirt. I've had people telling me, oh, you're trying to make money off Indigenous issues when you're a white girl. And I'm like, and I'm like, so there's things you're just gonna, that's really hard. Like I wanted to pull off all my videos. I was like mortified. Like, I was like, is that what people think that I'm doing? And I'm like, but that's not. And I'm like, I contribute back to my healthy snack program. I'm getting the awareness out. And I'm like, but you're always going to have haters. You're always going to have whoever. And especially like when he called me, like with your last name, that's a very big Indigenous name. And yeah, I was expecting maybe a bit of a darker, calling me from Saskatchewan, and see that's another thing. That's a stereotype there. So there's so much going on, and that's what I'm trying to do with this little bear. I'm going to go to that fashion show, and I got some branded Nike stuff that I'm going to put my little bear on. I'm going to send it to Nike and be like, you know what, your impact and my bear, imagine that impact. They're so established. And I'm like, well, and that would be my dream. So I'm just out here chasing whatever I can.
Yes. And prior to having these episodes, like I said, we're now on episode 6, which is like, holy frick. For a time I sent out postcards, and I got 2 Indigenous business owners that replied back within my social media, whether it was through a comment or on TikTok message, thanking me for sending. But you know what? I will actually show you what I'm referring to. So it was these postcards, and you may have seen them on social media, on the TikTok, where it has a little bit of a blurb, and it talks about, hi, hello, and just, introducing and, listing where this can be listened to and where you can go to connect and whatnot. And, I mailed these out to, I think, about 20 or 30 Indigenous business owners, Indigenous businesses, and one of them was APTN. Shout out to APTN if they're,
They won't even respond to any of my emails either.
Yeah, they didn't respond, and like I said, only 2 out of the 20 to 30 that I sent out actually responded. And so I'm just wondering, in my efforts to be unique, in my efforts to be outgoing, and to put out the word that there is a podcast, there is such a platform for Indigenous professionals to come and speak and share their stories, their knowledge, and to have a great time, for laughs and for smiles.
Share your info with the other semi-finalists from Powwow Pitch as well, because they're all business owners, and they would all probably love to talk and share their story. So I watched one of these videos on Instagram, and the guy said, if you're not making any money, be shameless. Go and talk to everybody. Reach out, because someone's going to become your person. So, that's what you got to do. And I'm on the West Coast, so I'm totally far from you. I've got connections down here as well. Like, I'm not sure if Canadian Council Indigenous Business Year Award went to my she's not old, but she's the lovely Sharon Braun. She was on the front page, I believe, in July, and she was my advocate when I was a kid, and she's running a franchise of Kukuli Cafe in all of BC, and now she's trying to get started in Alberta. And so there's a lot of great entrepreneurs here. So I'm definitely going to pass your information around my network, and hopefully we can get some more people on the West Coast in the Northwest Territories. And I got family in Alberta. So, and another thing is that with my healthy snack program. I'm also a social work student. I'm in social work. I'm in psychology actually right now too. I'm
Oh,
trying to get my
wow.
social work degree. And so I was trying to think of like when you're talking about that, like with their different diagnoses with the stuff. And I'm like, oh, I literally just took this course. And I was just on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, like I think you're doing great. And yeah, you got to stay on your TikTok. I just recently found out about TikTok.
Mm, yeah.
And I think next week I'm going to, or on the October 2nd, I'm going to be doing my pitch for Powwow Pitch. And I'm nervous. So this will be
Yes.
nicely aligned with when I go do my pitch. I'll tell people to come check you out.
Well, thank you for the referral.
Yeah. I love
And
seeing
of
you
course,
doing it, man. So I'm going
yeah.
to keep watching you and stalking you from afar.
And I eventually want to hand out, more postcards. But the thing is, for me to get them printed and for them to get mailed to me so that I can mail them out in stamps and the envelopes is costly. So it's like, how do I do this at a high scale and a low cost? I mean, word of mouth always helps, but, the whole point of these postcards was the visuals,
Yeah.
and along with these, they were inside envelopes. I used up all the envelopes so I can show you the envelopes, but they were in envelopes with the logo at the corner where you usually have the return address pasted. I put the logo there so it's no return address. And I had it with the themes and with the colors of, my brand of the podcast. And I've only gotten 2 responses, 2 replies. And I even along the mailing list was a Canadian business magazine. I just searched up and asked, Copilot, which is an AI on my laptop. I asked, give me a list of 20 Indigenous business magazines, and I picked about 5 of them. So there was Canadian Business Magazine. There were 2 Indigenous magazines, and there was, I believe, L magazine was one of them, and no response.
Have you tried reaching out to any of like the chiefs around there, maybe like the Winnipeg or the Manitoba chief, the Grand? I believe they just had a bunch of stuff going on there. I've seen on Facebook, but he's a real cool premier, man. I've seen him on YouTube. He looks real cool, man. I would talk to him.
WAP.
I think so.
WAP?
I don't know. He looks real sharp though. Looks like a real cool guy holding it down there.
And that's the thing, and that's what I mean, it's isolated, to certain areas. I mean, it's not mainstream information. I've heard of the Manitoba Premier, I've heard of him, but I haven't heard of what you're referring to is, the scale of the work that he's reaching out to. I've heard of him as a Manitoba Premier, but that's about it. And so there's very lacking, and there are very much gaps in certain areas all across Canada.
It gets discouraging, like I've had that. I've reached out to quite a few people, and then just, and then I've had people reach out to me wanting to mentor me, and then all of a sudden I'm all excited, and then there's a cost all of a sudden. And I'm like, you wanted to mentor me, and now there's a cost for your time. I'm like, sorry, but and that's another thing in the business world is trying to navigate, like not every connection, like maybe somebody does, like not every connection's your connection. And not trying to rush into things. I'm kind of in the same route right now. Like I've got all this pressure to go wholesale, and I've had to tell people like we're not at that stage. We're still figuring things out. We're a family business. I don't want to burn my kids out. And and then we just scrap it because it is heavy. It's financials too. And especially with the digital world, you want to see instant, you see people with all these followers and all this, and then you're just like, why isn't my stuff happening? And it's like, things don't happen overnight, and, things are going to pop off, but you just got to hate to say it, but I hate being patient too, but, Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've clearly stayed on one
Yeah.
question, one topic for too long. I've forgotten that we have more questions to follow up on. Okay. So our second question is, can you describe about becoming a business owner and what is the most rewarding?
Well, you know what? It's rewarding that I'm doing it for myself, like going to,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is that you're the only one doing it for yourself. And so like my boyfriend, he's really supportive, but you can't do everything in a day. And it's just really trying to do those boundaries. Like right now, I'm having to have troubles doing those boundaries. And I've had to actually make it that I'm not going to do any Apple products this month because I'm in school right now too. And so you have to like make those realistic boundaries with yourself and those realistic goals. Like, yeah, go out there and do it. Go accomplish what you want to do, but do it realistic for you. Like, because this is a lot of meant like you're doing it for yourself, so you're sharing your story. And like especially like what you're saying, when you reach out to people and you're giving it your all like you spent all that time on your logo, and for somebody not to even get a response, it's like like why is like, and then you also feel like, well, what am I not doing right? Am I not good enough? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of self-doubt, and that's what I'm dealing with right now too. And so I'm just trying to connect with other people, and I'm just like trying to keep that perseverance and the resilience. And um there's so many people there that want to talk and mentor you and help you out, and it's just having to actually utilize that. And like I would even suggest you should even look into that Indigitech program that I'm in right now. It is free. It's called the Indigenous Friends Association. If I heard of it before, I would have told people years ago to be doing it.
Yeah.
It is wonderful. They'll teach you everything. They'll give you a laptop. They do show you how to do digital art. So an extra now, like my grandma, after losing my grandpa, I wish I could have done so many more things with him. And so, I really cherish my grandma, and my grandma does a lot of beading. And so in my digital art, I'm learning how to, so I've got her beading and I've got pictures of it. And now I'm learning how to incorporate it with my teddy bear designs. And so I can
Um,
immortalize my grandma's beading and art and like put on sweaters and have it forever.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, what was it? Indigenous tech, Indigitech,
In Digitech. It's Indigenous
Indigitech.
Friends Association. They're awesome. It's a 12-week program.
Wow.
Yeah, and they'll teach you how to do a portfolio, and I believe there's like 40 other people in this cohort with me, and they're all inspiring entrepreneurs as well. And
Mm-hmm.
it's they show you how to do web dev, you do a website, UX design. So it would be really like, I went to film school, but this still gave me a really good foundation of learning, and a real good refresher. And they'll hook you up with an internship, like trying to get you an a internship. So it's super great program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I look forward to it. I do have a laptop, though. I spend quite a bit on my laptop. It's a Microsoft Surface laptop, and it's pink. It had to be pink because I'm delving into my pink era right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I am. But yeah, I will check them out. I will see if there's a website and an email contact
Yeah.
info, and I will get a hold of them. And thank you for the referral.
Yeah.
And with that being said, we're moving on to our third question. What is one downside about owning a business and being a full-time mama?
Time is money. So,
Mhm.
like, yeah, I'm doing this, my cost, I can get apples pretty cheap. My ingredients and stuff, I can get them, I can source them cheaper, but it doesn't matter because at each hour that I'm away, I'm still taking away from my baby. And my
Mhm.
baby's like, he's 9 months right now. And so for me, I start to feel a lot of guilt if I spend too much time on my, like, so I try not to do any, like go on my laptop too much in the evenings when everybody's home. It's starting to really like I'm trying not to let it take time away from being my mom,
Yeah.
because I still have 3 kids and I could be on the computer all day, all night, and still not be not even done. I still have
Yes.
to do all my financials from July and it's September. But it's realizing that, you still have a life. Like, yeah, you want to do your business, you want to do all that, you want to save the world, you want to, but you can't
Yes.
do everything in one day and you're only human. And for me, I'm really big. If I don't jump in the shower and brush and dry my hair and iron it, like I feel like I'm just like so unkept. But now it's like crazy. I could go a week without straightening my hair or even wearing makeup or nothing. So it's like, and that's just, and I think I'm balanced, but then my boyfriend's like, well, when was the last time you took a shower? And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not that bad, but it's just, it's really trying to set those boundaries. And like right now, it's like I'm not going to be doing any work this weekend just because I felt like I missed my whole summer because I was so busy preparing for everything and markets that I'm still trying to figure out my way. So, and I regret spending so much time on my business in the summertime because I'm still swamped. I think it's just you're learning to be comfortable in your chaos. And I've always been in chaos. I'm just learning a new chaos. And it's a good stress. That's what you got to remember. It's a good stress. And it's for you. But, and for me, a lot of it's that I'm an over accomplisher. I'm trying to make up for all that time that I spent, partying and all that. And so for back of my mind, I'm like, oh, I can get this done. I can do that. And I'm pushing myself. But then physically, I'm like burnt.
Yes. Yeah, I totally get that. And especially, that introduction letter that I mentioned, because there was the postcards and then there was the PDF letter format. I did an introduction letter for the podcast and saying, hi, this is my vision and this is my plan, my goals. And I sent that out to LinkedIn because there's a specific LinkedIn profile I made aside from my personal. So there's one dedicated to the Indigenous Central podcast. And yeah, I got about 20, impressions, whatever the hell that means. But it's just, you put so much work and time and, there's only one person, there's only one of you, and there's only so many hours in a day. And then it's just discouraging and you get tired and bored easily. And it's just if there's one downside on the business, it's just that, it's the lack of attention and it's the lack of focus and it's the lack of an audience towards your business.
Yeah, and now that I find that I'm getting more success in the community and people are hearing about it, people are a little bit more mean about more criticism on my stuff. Like I had a person tell me, oh, well, like, and I told him, I was like, well, I'm in powwow pitch, like the top 10. And there's like, oh, well, you're basically in a good position in the lottery. And I'm like, well, I'm in the top 10. I won the first one in Kamloops, and that was like out of 26 people. And he was like, oh, well, I guess you did win the lottery that one. But like people will just discredit you. And it's just like, don't take it personal, but you do.
Yes.
You take it personal for a little bit and then you let it go. Now I'm over it, but like it's still things you just need to get off your chest. And people don't also understand because you also don't want to overshare. Like now that I'm doing apple chips, there's other people that start doing apple chips in my home community. So it's like, but I was the first, but still like it's
yeah, there's just a lot of downsides, but also you have to find that balance to where there's a lot of upscale and there's a lot of positive, positivity from owning a business. You got to find that balance, or you got to find to where the positive outweighs the negative.
And you just got to go with your gut. That's the biggest thing. If something like, even if people don't feel, like I had to turn down 2 retail opportunities to sell in their stores because I just didn't feel like that, the vibe. and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to get locked in a contract with someone that I didn't really feel comfortable with. And
Yeah.
like, and I ended up telling them, like, I would love to revisit this conversation in a year from now when I'm more established. But right now, I don't feel like I'm in a good position. I just don't like how I feel right now isn't a good feeling. So I'm just I didn't tell them that, but I just told them I'm not at the stage yet. And I'm just getting, it's a lot of pressure to go wholesale, but I'm not at that stage yet. And so it's just and that's a tough call because I'm like, I want to pound the pavement, I want to make money, but there's only so
Mm-hmm.
much you can do in a day. But especially
Yes.
being a mom, as much as I want to get focused, you can probably hear my little baby,
Yes.
like duty calls. And so it's a good reminder too sometimes that like I'll be focused and then baby, and it's like, okay, no, I need to break. I need to get off of here and stop being on the computer for all day. It's setting a
Mm-hmm.
schedule.
Yeah. And time blocking your time and your tasks. It's just so many hours in a day, and also you're not a vampire, so you need sleep. You
Yeah,
can't pull an all-nighter.
and that's another thing is like I make apple chips, but I'll go all day without eating, and I'll forget to
Mm-hmm.
eat too. And then you're eating junk food, and then you're wondering why you're breaking out and you're not feeling well,
Yeah.
and then you're not going for walks or anything. Like I keep on saying I'm gonna go for a walk, but then it's like I've been on my feet all day. That's the last thing I want to do.
I know. Yeah. I do my best, and like I said, I've been working on time management and my procrastination, but it's almost every day I go for a walk, even if it's for a few minute walk. But yeah, exercise is important and sleep is important because you're not a zombie, not. And that's the whole reason of being an entrepreneur, for me being
Yeah.
a businesswoman, is that I don't have to work a set schedule, or I don't have to, be, bounced around like a yo-yo. I can set my own schedule and set my own time, but at the same time, there's barely any profits when you're first starting out.
And nobody's going to be telling you, hey, take a break. Hey, can I
Yeah.
help you with that? You are the one that's doing all your finances. You're the one that's doing your business plan. You're the one with everything on the line. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of pressure, but I've never had so much faith ever in my life until being an entrepreneur. And it's
Yes.
not having blind faith, and it's like, and you have intentions, and you feel like, and you believe in stuff, and it's like, and you figure things out. Like I'm still figuring, I've had some purchases that I probably shouldn't have done. Like I've ordered a bunch of stamps that I stamp on my bags before, but then I'm like, I could have just ordered labels for $10 more. And so I just spent all this money on this one product, and I'm not even going to use it again. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
you're just finding your ways. And I know like right now it's basically, especially being younger, you're trying to figure out how to do everything virtually free with the littlest
Mm-hmm.
resources and finances as possible. And
Yeah.
especially when you invested in postcards and the stamps, those are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
people nowadays, like I hate to say, they won't even look at your email or anything. Like, so it's like you kind of have to do it flashy on social media. And it's just different approaches now. Like
Yeah.
um I know I've had to redo all my business plan a few times and restructure it and figure out, because then I get nervous because I'm like, like I'm investing. I had to turn down another opportunity because it's like I don't want to go invest a few grand in buying more clothes for my clothing line because I haven't even debuted it yet. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I have like potential and I'm selling some stuff. I got lots of people traffic generated on my website, but that doesn't mean anything, like when it comes to the finance. And so that's a lot of things that people don't realize, that, yeah, they see all these likes and followers on TikTok, but that doesn't necessarily mean profit.
Mm-hmm.
And right now is all capital. Like you're starting off all your equipment. You don't think about that.
Yeah.
Like you get saved up for your laptop, maybe you need a selfie stick or a microphone. That's all your capital. And so that's money that's expensive, especially on electronics and on a printer, on ink. and you don't think of that, and those add up fast. And
Yes.
those little expenses are what get you, and those monthly subscriptions, and try to just be ahead of everything. And you have to be the master of your own destiny. But then again, you also have to be the master of taking a break and going to sleep and all of that.
Yes.
Complicated world, but
Yes. Yes, it is. Very much so. And now that you mentioned like equipment, I bought a $40 Bluetooth microphone. I don't even know where the hell it is. Like, I could turn the camera around and show you, but I won't. But I have a tornado or a tsunami that hit my room, and so I don't know where that microphone is, but I'm using my earbuds, and so that I already had these earbuds, so I figured I might as well just use these earbuds. I already have them, and Google Meets, you can pre-record these meetings and just, post it to YouTube. And, it's just a learning curve. It's a learning process. It's just, taking one step at a time.
yeah. And that's everything. And it's like, but it also causes, it's your own finances. So it's like, oh, it adds it all to the stress. But then, and that's my biggest thing right now. I'm doing my business proposal, and it's like, do I, like, it depends. Like, so now I'm going to go get a loan to upscale my business, but that comes at a whole different level of stress.
Yep.
And
Yep.
commitment fails.
Yeah, especially due dates, and things don't go according to plan, and if their nose is the investors' nose is bent out of joint a little bit, it's a hailstorm. And so I haven't had experience. I'm starting on my business plan for the podcast, hoping to get some financial support there, but I haven't completed it because I'm scheduling with guests. I'm doing as much as I can, making sure that I am caught up by this deadline, because it's every Tuesday at 9 p.m. And so it's this and that, and I'm running around as it is. And in the meantime, I'm trying to find part-time work because, I can't go off and living off on my savings all completely. I got to have a job to support my everyday essentials and my expenses. And it's just, you're running around like a headless chicken.
Yeah, and it gets overwhelming. And like not at Ginger Tech too, they'll give you like $400 for nutritional for food each month. And they'll give you an extra $400 for childcare if you had kids. So that's another thing that, and like they're helping me with my business plan and working through all the kinks and stuff like that. And I've actually like kind of realized, like, one of the people, they sent back my like resume, and I've been doing my resumes for years. I would help people with their resumes in my past jobs, and they sent it back like 10 times, and I'm like, oh my God. But it's for me. So I'm just like, it takes me more time because it's for my work, for my job. I'm not working for someone else. So I'm not going to, like I hate to say it, if I was working as a receptionist again, I would definitely not spend that much time on that, like. But when it's for you, it's a whole different ball game, and you have everything on the line. Your vulnerability.
Yes, and you're raw, and you're honest, and you're open for it, and you're laying yourself out on the battlefield, as they say, and anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. We better get on to the fourth question, because I hear that baby calling out for Mama. Yeah. I'm taking up Mama's time. I'm taking Mama away from the baby. Okay. And the fourth question, it deals with reconciliation, and basically, how do we go forward towards reconciliation, and what are the important steps of reconciliation?
Well, it's people just doing the work, like that's why I called my company Bebia Cho, because and people are just like, they don't know, they know it's not English. And so right there, and that right there is a conversation starter. And then when I tell people, oh, it's Dene Zati, and they're like, oh, really? And so like it's funny because now they're just like, oh, well, now I know something in Dene. And it's like, yeah, you do.
Yes.
You know, it's
Yes.
simple little things like that. And you know, I've had people like and residential school and honoring truth and reconciliation. It's like it's not trying to point fingers at anybody. It's to honor it. Like that is part of Canada's ugly truth, and it needs to be talked about. It doesn't need to be shoved under the bush. And so much division about it. And so what I'm trying to do with my Bebia Cho awareness bear is that it's that safe when you see someone wearing it, you know you're in a safe spot. You know that person is they get it. They're part of the solution, you know, and it's I'm just trying to bridge that gap, you know, like I'm so sick of every 4 years the government and hearing all this division and all that. And kids don't even really know. And so this was my kind of way that it evolved from apple chips. Like my Bebia Cho bears on all of my products, and I've got like a Curie code. Oh, I don't know if you can see it, but you scan it and it goes to my website. And that's on all of my products. So everything goes back to my healthy snack program. And so yeah, my bear and my mascot is to represent and to honor residential school, but that's just to honor them. It means so much more than that. And people just think reconciliation, oh, I'll wear an orange shirt on September 30th. And it's like, no. It's about more than that. It's about when you hear somebody saying, oh, that Indian gets free gas. It's about stopping that. It's like, no, they don't. You know, like why would you say that? It's stopping people from feeling comfortable about bashing other people, because now it's so common to hear people like, oh, well, like especially for immigrants, you know, like people, they think it's okay to call people down, and it's like, no, everyone's human. What makes you better than anybody else? And it's the dirty truths of Canada. You know, you got to talk about it, and not and then like and now it's just like these generations of, well, we didn't do it, and this is our land. We developed it, and it's like, you know, you guys don't do nothing, and it's like, no. Like, let's talk. Everybody knows somebody that's Native. You know, it was really another thing for me is that I'm an Indigenous student advocate, and my best friend, she's not my friend anymore, but she was my friend for a long time. And after I got clean, we stopped being friends. And she asked me like, and then she's like, well, why do you go to West Bank to go get gas when the Indian Reserve's just in Rutland here? And I'm like, what do you mean? And I was like, that's a Native complex. She's like, oh, well, don't you get like tax off on gas there? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, isn't it an Indian Reserve? And I'm like, oh my God, you're like my best friend for 10 years and you don't know what an Indian Reserve is? Like, that's the Native complex. Like, it's First Nations housing. It's not a reserve. Like, and she's like, oh, really? And she was my best friend. And I was like, really? That's what you thought? Like, but she just didn't know, and nobody corrected her. And that's why I felt responsible for her lack of knowledge, because I never corrected her. I just let her go on, you know, and it's part of it is talking about it and not making it feel like so awkward to talk about it. The more you talk about it, the less awkward, and getting that elephant out of the room. I hate going into a room and then everybody's like, are we going to do a land acknowledgement? And then they all look at me and it's like, I'm First Nations. I shouldn't be doing the land acknowledgement. You should. That's the best part of the work. And today when I was in the Digitech, nobody heard of that. And I was like, no, in the Okanagan here, we don't know. First Nations people don't do the land acknowledgement because we're from here. Well, I'm not from the Silks territory, but you know what I mean? Like, we're from Turtle Island. It's your like, I hate using that word colonizers, but that's you know, that's what it is. And I'm like, that's the whole purpose, is the land acknowledgement is for colonizers to acknowledge the land, you know, and honor it. So that's my big thing. It's like, don't look at me to do it. It's you. You got to do the work. So many people don't want to do the work. And by wearing a shirt, yeah, you part doing the work, but you know what you're representing.
Yes. Yeah, there's there has to be awareness. There has to be a level of consciousness and of common sense. Common sense nowadays, it's flushed down the toilet, or as another saying goes, is, it's being flushed out of the devil's, where the sun don't shine. But it's, it's the lack of common sense. It's the lack of communication. It's the lack of asking questions.
Yeah.
Of saying, hey, I'm interested in this, or is it true? Instead of, coming out with the assumption of, oh, do you get free gas? Ask the person to say, did I hear correctly? Or is it true? According to my understanding, do you receive free gas? Open up the conversation, open up the waterworks, don't just simply sit there and go, you get free gas. You don't know that 100%.
I like how you said that, the way that you asked too. A lot of people, they're just ignorant, and it's like, no, you just stated it. You didn't ask. And, and it's like a little shots at you. And so I like how you say that though. But, and that's another thing. It's like, just with so many kids that just don't know, and they just hear what their parents say. And so I'm just like, we got to start talking to them when they're younger, because, residential school, they were taking kids when you were like 3-4 years old. And now we don't want people talking about residential school because it's too harsh for kids that are 7 or 8 years old to hear in school. It's like, now that's reversed. Now that's messed up.
Yes. Yeah. And, going on to our last and final question, and coming off of the steps towards reconciliation, what is your one advice, or what is your one takeaway that you would share with our viewers and listeners tuning in?
You know what? Go do the work. If you're not sure about First Nations issues, go ask an elder. And if you're not sure about asking that elder, go get some tobacco. It could be a cigarette, or it could be something that means something to you. Maybe some tea, or maybe, I don't know, maybe something you baked, or just a lot of elders they want to talk, and they're lonely too. And so it's just getting that conversation started, and it's just being respectful. Go and be like, hey, my name is so and so, and do you have a few minutes? Like, I want to learn. Like, and so many people will want to tell you. And there's some people that, like, and it's the context you go to. You're not just going to go up to somebody and be like, oh, you're Indigenous, can you tell me this about like, it's just understanding. It's starting a conversation. And so many people are just scared to start talking about it. And I'm excited to see how this Bebia Cho Bear is going. I've had a couple of people ask me to come speak at their events on September 30th. And I was holding off because I grew up going to the Kelowna Friendship Center all my life. Since I was a kid, my mom worked there. I used to go there, volunteer there, and they didn't want to support me with my photo shoot of local elders that go to the Friendship Center. And I let them know, I'm like, I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this for me. Like, all of my orange shirts, they're going back into my program. Like, I'm doing this because I want to do it. And so, it's you have to remember why you're doing it. And for me, I'm doing this for my grandpa and for my aunties and uncles, and for those kids that didn't make it out of residential school. And so for me, I'm committed now. And so I want to see my little Bebia Cho Bear get around. I've had people ask me to go to Whistler. I had to turn down an event in Edmonton. So I'm excited. And hopefully maybe next year when we connect again, my bear will be getting around. Maybe it'll be just
yeah, I do look forward.
It's my bear. I connected with the lady here, Shauna Braun. She's from Anaheim Lake, another native lady. I met her at the market, and she crochets. She's another stay-at-home mama too, and she free-handed this from me for my design. And
oh wow.
Yeah, so, and I featured her. I do artist spotlights on all the people I collaborate with, just because I'm all about the empowerment. And yeah, I'm excited to see your show air next week, and I'll be pumping your stuff out to all my friends.
Well, the last episode I aired out was episode 4, and that was this Tuesday. So it's going to be episode 5, and then it's going to be your episode 6. I'm just getting ahead and, getting the recordings done and, getting the pre-production and then, airing it out onto YouTube. So
Cool.
I have it written down here that episode 6 is on the 16th. So this coming Tuesday's the 9th. That's episode 5 with Joyce Roberts, and then you yourself, Wendy, episode 6 on the 16th.
Cool, because my powwow pitch will be on October 2nd. I'm so nervous. Yeah, it's a 2-minute pitch, so. But I guess I'll let you go. And it was lovely talking to you. And I'm cheering for you. And the Canadian Arts Council's got a lot of grants. And the Canadian Art Grant, there's a grant right now for people under 35 years old for up to 10 grand. There's a couple of grants right now. I share them on my Facebook. So if you see them, check out my Facebook too. I'll see. I don't know how to share stuff on TikTok yet, but I'll send them your way, because I used to be in the kind of, not in the podcast world, but in the film industry. So if I see anything that might be aligned with you, I'll send it your way.
All right. Well, thank you. And good night. And say hi to the baby for me.
I will. Have a good night. Bye.
You too. Bye.